Man, you ever have a long week at work and you get to Tuesday and think, oh man, I cannot wait till Friday. I've already drank both nights this week. This is out of control. That's how I feel with 49ers content. And I haven't even made a show yet. This is the first show of the week, but all the stuff that's been going on has been out of control. I cannot wait to talk about it with my guy, Ryan, and we're going to do it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And it's Tuesday. Once again, no So Real Sunil, but I do got my guy Ryan back making another guest appearance. Ryan, what is going on, my guy?
Not much, man. Just out here grinding, having a good day. It's raining again in California. Looking forward to spring. I think we're just gonna go from winter to summer this year. I don't think we're gonna actually have a spring, but other than that, man, I'm doing good.
Hey, as long as the weather's good when training camp comes around, that's all I care about, bro, because that's when I'm going to be there. So,
Yeah, well, here where I live, it's going probably like 105 degrees. I live in a hot place. It's crazy.
Oh, do you? How far away from like the Bay Area do you live?
I am in the home of where 49ers training camp used to be in a town called Rockland. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from where I grew up in like Vallejo, Benicia area. So it's not too far from the Bay. It's a good 2-hour drive to Levi, though.
Okay, all right. So is there any chance that I see you when training camp rolls around?
I'm going to be there for sure.
Oh, yeah. All right. I can't wait for it, man. I can't wait for it. Well, there's a lot to talk about, and we're going to get into all the madness around the quarterback position. Trust me, we're going to talk about it. But there are some other little things that have come out over the last couple of days that I do want to discuss before we just dive head first into all the quarterback positions.
Yeah, now you got to stick around. You guys got to stick around.
Yeah, you got to stick around for the craziness. We're going to talk about it, trust me. Yeah. But the 49ers did sign another tackle. They signed a potential starter in Matt Pryor. Now, it does sound like McKivitz is still going to be the guy, but they are bringing in competition. What does this signing tell you about where the 49ers are at with the offensive line?
Well, first of all, Matt Pryor is a large man, 6'7", 329. He's from Long Beach, California. I imagine he probably went to Cal Poly, where my wife actually went to high school. Yeah, he's a big dude and kind of different from some of the other guys that 49ers have signed in the past. So is Feliciano. So big guy, man. It's interesting how this is going to work out for the 49ers line. I'm not sure. I believe Feliciano is here to be a starter. I think he's one of the top 3 or 4 dudes on this offensive line. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't start. With Matt Pryor, I'm not sure, but I'm glad they're bringing him on board, because coming into, before Feliciano and before Matt Pryor, the offensive line, particularly the tackle position, was a big concern. And both of those guys can play tackle. Now, Feliciano is more of a guard recently, but he did play left tackle in the past. It's possible they throw him out at right tackle. I don't know. But at least they're adding depth, which they thoroughly need.
Do you feel better about the offensive line? Because I know you and I have had these conversations off the record, on the record, what have you. Do you, now that they signed Feliciano and they signed Pryor, which I don't know if I think they made both those signings after we talked last, at least on a show. Do you feel better about the offensive line now versus where you're at, maybe a week or two ago? Like, how do you, scale of 1 to 10, how good are you feeling right now about the offensive line?
Well, I like the depth. John Lynch talked about in his press conference, though, that Colton McKivitz is basically the leading at the right tackle spot. So as far as like starting position, if that ends up being true, not really feeling better, but I do like the depth that they have now. So that's good. Yeah.
I feel it. Yeah. I mean, I actually, once they signed Feliciano, I felt a lot better about it. And then I just really started to think through it and say, all right, let's try to take a step back. Instead of being frustrated, let's look at how they can get better. Mm-hmm. And I think there is room for improvement on the offensive line, even if they take a step back at that right tackle position, which, I mean, maybe McKivitz is better than what we think, but let's assume that it's a step back. Mm-hmm. If Banks, Burford, and Brendel all take a step forward, the offensive line could potentially still be better. And I think it's I think it's within the realm of possibility that second year starters could actually get better and the offensive line could be better because of it. So I don't want to hit the panic button on the offensive line. It is nice that they brought in another guy who could potentially start, although looking at Matt Pryor and maybe his season last year wasn't the best, but it's something. It's depth, and the 49ers are at least addressing it from that standpoint. Do you think that they're done when it comes to the draft then with the offensive line, or do you think they should still keep their eyes open for a good offensive lineman regardless of the position?
Man, I really hope not. So they could have made – it's possible that this offensive line, just with the guys that are returning from last year, not Colton McKivitz included, but like Banks and Burford, and if Brendel is your center, it's possible that they can have improved and the run game is better. But it still worries me having that edge against the pass rush. So that concerns me in regards to this offensive line. A little worried about that, to be honest with you. But it's possible that they're improved against the run, which is also a big need for them. I missed the second part of your question. Give it to me again.
I was just asking if you thought that it meant that the 49ers were done when it came to the draft.
In regards to the draft, thank you. Yeah, it's been a long day, man. I've been working since like 6 a.m. You guys can forgive me. I'll probably be working until 10 p.m. So, no, man, they better draft. To me, they have no choice but to draft a right tackle this year. Hopefully, it's a guy that can make an impact right away. Worst case scenario, hopefully it's a guy that can make a leap sophomore season like Banks did. And then next year, they're going to have to draft a left tackle, in my opinion, because Trent Williams isn't getting any younger. For all we know, this could be his last year. Hopefully not. But at some point, they're going to have to address that situation as well. And I don't think the guys they're bringing in are long-term solutions, right? Like Banks is a long-term solution. Burford is a long-term solution. I don't know about Brendel being a long-term solution. Trent Williams is not a long-term solution. He's an immediate solution. He's an amazing left tackle, but how long is he going to be here? And as far as the right tackle position, there's no long-term solutions there unless you think Colton McKivitz is your guy.
Absolutely. I'm just catching up on the chat. Sorry. Yeah. I've neglected y'all a little bit, chat. I'm sorry. I'm normally like on it. It's been a while since I've streamed. You got to give me a minute to ease into it. I'll get your guys' comments up here. I was looking for Jamal's comment.
Yeah,
I want to say what's up to Jamal. Jamal's my guy. There we go. What's up, Jamal? What's up, Mike? I mean, there's a bunch of you guys in here. I appreciate you. In fact, you know what's funny is I think a lot of people thought the show was going to be last night. And so the chat was going crazy last night. I was getting all these alerts. I'm like, what's going on? Everybody's in there. They're like, when's the show starting? And I'm like, oh, thought it was tonight. Well, I guess we got to wait 23 hours. It was kind of funny that people were in there. I think the thumbnail kind of got people a little triggered in one way or another. So
yeah, it was great thumbnail.
I thought it was a good one. It was a good one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, let's talk NFC competition. So I put out a video on Sunday. I think it was Saturday.
Good video.
And talked about the signing of Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
And how I felt that Seattle's gotten much better this offseason, not just because of the Wagner signing. I went in depth. You know, I feel like they've upgraded 5 defensive positions. They have multiple first and second round picks. Talked about Detroit and Philadelphia as well. And then it came out that the 49ers, according to PFF, have the 10th easiest schedule on paper this upcoming season. Now, last year, they had the 13th easiest on paper. It ended up being the easiest. So with all of that encompassing, everybody that's kind of left for the 49ers and everybody that's come in and the players that have been signed by the competition, I think the feeling a couple weeks ago, Ryan, was the NFC was the 49ers. Like it was the 49ers and then everybody else was a step behind. And as long as the 49ers take care of business, they're a lock to go to the Super Bowl. And now, at least for me, I don't feel like that's necessarily the case. I also don't feel like they're even a lock for the NFC West. Now, I do think they are the favorites. If I'm betting, I'm going to bet on them to win the NFC West. I'm going to bet on them to go to the NFC Championship and probably win that. However, I think Seattle has closed that gap pretty significantly, especially knowing that they have all these picks coming in. If they can get an edge rusher or 2 out of this draft, I think they can make it tight. I think the downfall of Philly has been a little bit overstated if you really look at who's left and who's come in. And then we know that Detroit's on the rise. So overall, how do you feel about the 49ers? Do you think like they're a lock? They're going to walk into the Super Bowl? Do you think the NFC West is theirs? Like, what are your thoughts right now if you're doing a way too early forecast?
Yeah, definitely way too early. But I will say I don't think they're a lock on anything. I don't think they're going to walk into the Super Bowl necessarily. Last year, like you said, they were 13th easiest schedule before the season. Ends up it was the easiest schedule. So how much can we trust these rankings in March, right? Very tough to do. We still got to see who's drafted. But to speak on what you're talking about, Seattle absolutely improved. Will Geno continue to be the player that he was last year, or was it kind of like a flash in the pan for Geno? That's one question. But I don't expect Seattle to be worse at all. They're definitely going to be better than they were as long as Geno can continue to play at that same level where he was. And they still have 2 high draft picks to make that can impact that as well. So Seattle's definitely improved. Ryan, sorry, threw me off seeing my name. What's up, Jared? Nice to see you, man. But yeah, man, the Lions improved quite a bit. I think the Bears are going to improve. Honestly, this is going to trip people out, but the Cardinals are very unknown. Like, to be honest with you, right? They don't have a quarterback, obviously. Kyler Murray's not going to be healthy the first half of the season, but they're very unknown. Yeah, we can assume they're going to suck, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did. But they're unknown. New head coach, right? What are they going to do in the first half? How's their offense going to look? There's a lot of unknowns with the Cardinals. Now, the Rams, I have no high expectations for those guys. But outside of the NFC West, they're going to be playing the Cowboys, who, they're not the truth, but they're no punks either. I wouldn't say that. And the Eagles, everyone thinks they fell off completely. I don't think that's the case. I think they're going to be a formidable opponent. So as far as like the where they're ranked right now, I'm not buying it. I would imagine that it'll go the opposite direction. Last year, they thought it was easy. It got easier. This year, they think it's easy. It's probably going to get tougher than they expect.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the NFC it's not overly talented, and the real competition comes from the AFC because all the great quarterbacks are over there. I mean, we look top to bottom. I mean, it's possible the top 7 quarterbacks are in the AFC, especially if Rodgers goes over there. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting. But the 49ers from a quarterback position definitely aren't in a spot where they can be looking at other teams and say, oh, well,
yeah,
we don't like Geno Smith or we don't like Jared Goff.
right.
Because we don't even, we're starting to get a little bit clearer picture, I guess. I mean, we're going to talk about it in a second, but who knows what the hell's going on with the quarterback position? It's the strangest thing ever. But let's just talk about it. Everybody's waiting for it. That's what everybody's here for. Let's quit dancing around it.
All right.
Lynch, Shanahan, and York talked all over the last 24 or so hours. There was a lot that was said. Let's kind of go through the roller coaster of emotions. Let's start with Lynch. How were you feeling yesterday after just Lynch had his comments? Where were you at?
I was feeling awful yesterday, Jess. I'll be honest with you. John Lynch, man, had me just down in the dumps. I made a video yesterday called Trey, and it's not because I don't like Trey Lance, don't believe in Trey Lance. It's because I feel like if John Lynch is the representation of how they're feeling about Trey Lance in the building, they should do themselves a favor, just trade him, get what you can back for him, and focus on Brock Purdy. That's how I felt yesterday after listening to John Lynch. Not a lot of positives there at all, wishy-washy stuff. My whole opinion changed today listening to Kyle Shanahan. You and I both heard from sources, Marco heard from sources, that Trey Lance is Kyle Shanahan's guy. John Lynch never really wanted him. He wanted Mac Jones or something like that, right? We all heard the same thing from different sources. Who you guys are hearing from is not who I'm hearing from, right? So different people have said the same thing. And when I see John Lynch speak, it just reiterates that that's actually the truth. That's the case. Now, we heard Kyle Shanahan speak this morning, and he had nothing but nice things to say about Trey Lance. Everything seemed fair to me. The one thing that's throwing everybody off, and to me it's not a big a deal as a lot of people are thinking, but the one thing that Kyle Shanahan said that's throwing everybody off is that Sam Darnold will split reps with Trey Lance. I think that's the one. If he didn't say that one thing, everyone would have walked away like, oh, okay, right? But that
leave it up to Grant to just pry the answer out of him.
That one thing, right? Yeah. So, Grant did a great job asking.
Actually, I think that one might have been Mayoko. I don't remember. One of them did at the very end.
Yeah, I actually noticed Matt's been stepping it up quite a bit, hitting direct answers. So I appreciate Matt and Grant for doing that. But I know I'm talking about a lot, but there's so much to talk about in regards to this, man. Like Jed York said that he believes Trey Lance can be great and wouldn't change a thing. Kyle Shanahan said that if Trey Lance didn't get injured, he would have had a great year. And that he has, now that Brock Purdy is injured, he has an opportunity to come in and compete to take back his spot as QB1. They also said Brock Purdy has earned the right to be QB1. All of that stuff, totally fine and fair to me. I wouldn't expect any. I don't want them to anoint Trey Lance anything. I'm 100% cool with competition. If you can't beat Sam Darnold, we're screwed anyway.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think yesterday it was interesting because knowing what we've both kind of put out there, and that we both have it on good accord that Lynch certainly did want Mac Jones. He was the Mac Jones guy in the room. And hearing him talk about Trey Lance was like, oh, man, is this really like how everybody feels in the front office? Or is there a little bit discourse? Do they agree fully? And I think that they agree for the most part. Like there was some fractions that we can talk about where they were definitely different. The way that Kyle talks about Trey versus the way that Lynch talks about Trey is a little bit different. But they do both agree that, hey, if Purdy was healthy, like it's his job. Should be his job until somebody proves otherwise, basically. Shanahan seems to be more in the camp of, hey, somebody can prove otherwise, but it's going to take a lot to do so. That's totally fair. And the other part where I felt like they were very different in their comments was the timeline of Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
You know, the way John Lynch spoke, it was like, oh, I mean, is he going to be back at the end of July for training camp, or day one he's going to be ready to go? And then Shanahan's like, well, he might be out 8 months. Who knows? We'll know. You know, they both said that we'll know more in 3 weeks, but the timelines were so opposite. It's like, did you guys even try to talk this through before you guys got up there? That was where I was like, these guys are clearly not on the same page whatsoever. And then I would also say that Shanahan did leave the door open a little bit more for Trey than what John Lynch did.
For sure.
But you think that's pretty fair?
Yeah, I mean, John Lynch basically said it's Brock's job. When he's healthy, it's his job. Basically, that's what he said in a nutshell. Whereas Kyle Shanahan said, Brock Purdy earned the right to start if he was healthy. Unfortunately, he's not healthy, and so that opens up the door for Trey Lance to come in and compete to take his spot back, which that's all I want, man. It's really obvious. We heard those things, and then you see it in their commentary, like that's the case, right? Kyle Shanahan still believes that he made the right decision wanting to go after Trey Lance. John Lynch still believes he was right in not wanting Trey Lance. It's like, I've coached basketball for a long time, right? And like there'd be certain kids that like maybe I believe in and my assistant coaches don't. So the annoying thing about this is John Lynch is like that assistant coach that'd be in my ear. You got to pull him out. He's not good, right? Or you need to sub him out. You need to start somebody else. And that's not good. You want to be on the same page. And I think that's the thing that's a little bit concerning about that, is having John Lynch always in Kyle's ear, along with some of the players on the team pushing for that Brock Purdy.
Yeah, for sure. Green Glass Full says they should trade Trey and draft Anthony Richardson. Are you sure? Like, I like Anthony Richardson a lot. In fact, I have him as my 1B quarterback in this draft. I really do like him, but he's the exact same mold as Trey. So do you really trust that Shanahan and this regime would even put the right amount of time into developing Anthony Richardson? Like, that just seems like the same disaster all over again. I don't know about that one. I do like Anthony Richardson a lot, though. I don't know if Anthony Richardson, let's take this draft class and put it with the 2021 draft class. I think my order of quarterback would have been Trevor Lawrence, probably CJ Stroud, Trey Lance, then Anthony Richardson would be the order that I would have gone for my top four. So I do like Anthony Richardson. I just think you're getting into the same issue as what you have with Trey Lance.
And how Anthony Richardson is going to be gone, what, first, second, third? Like, how do you get into position to draft Anthony Richardson? Yeah.
Like, the Colts should be worried that they're not going to get him at 4. Because if somebody leapfrogs them and trades with Arizona, Anthony Richardson's gone, and they're going to be stuck with Will Levis. If I'm the Colts, I'm trying to figure out how I can pick swap with Arizona ASAP. Yeah. I'm not even taking a chance that I don't get those top 3 quarterbacks, because those top 3 to Will Levis is a major drop off. So no, I think that would be A, hard, and B, not very smart. Manny Fresh says, Kyle and Lynch suck at picking quarterbacks. Please fire them. Oh, I actually have a quote that I want to get to, and we're going to break this one down here in a second. Megan says, as a Seattle fan, been interesting watching what's going on with you guys. Megan, I will say this. We are never short of drama. So if you're bored with Seattle content only because there's nothing going on, you can always come here. You can even put me on mute and just pay attention to the chat. Everybody's got a different opinion. And I mean, you could poll the fan base every day till you're blue in the face, and you're going to get a different answer. Trey, Purdy, hell, people would take Jimmy back, I'm sure. I don't know. It's interesting over here. It's always interesting. Official B&A Music, what's up, man? He says, I agree that Trey Lance should have to earn the job. The problem is that it feels as if the fight was fixed from the beginning. Now he has to split reps with a known bust when he needs reps.
I think he's going to – here's the thing. Is split reps, what does that mean? 50-50? He didn't clarify that. So that's one thing. The other thing is that could change, right? Kyle Shanahan can see it for 3 days and change his mind, right? That's the other thing. And what Trey Lance needs is game experience more than practice reps. 2 different things. I think Trey Lance is going to get enough reps in practice. He needs those game reps, and as long as he's getting those game reps, he's going to be fine. And if he can't beat out Sam Darnold, man, he's not the guy I thought he was. Sam Darnold's not good. Sam Darnold is not a good quarterback. Let me say that. Sam Darnold is not a good quarterback. He is not a QB1. He's not getting paid QB1 money. Anytime he's played QB1, he's done an awful job. So I fully expect Trey Lance to beat out Sam Darnold. And I think, honestly, Kyle Shanahan expects the same thing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in a second, so I don't want to give my full take on that. Bro, listen, I'm just going back to my evaluations at the time. I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. We may find out that whatever. Who knows? Richardson hasn't even taken a snap. I really like Richardson a lot. I do. But going back to draft evaluations, I mean, you gotta put people where they're at. I had this conversation with Vish actually, and he was like, if I were to combine the draft classes, I would have probably still had Zach Wilson number 2. Now, obviously, he knows that Zach Wilson is not that guy, but you're going with the evaluation at the time, what you saw at the time. You can't go back and rewrite history and be like, well, now I've seen these guys play, so let me try to fix this so that it looks like I'm smart. No, I'm going based off of what I saw at that time. Yes, I would have taken Lance over Richardson. And a big reason is a lot of the same similarity, a lot of the same things as far as what they needed to work on coming out. The difference is that Lance had proven that he could play under center on a regular basis. He had proven that he could read a field side to side on a regular basis. What Florida does to Richardson, a lot of high-low reads, a lot of flood concepts, very, very different. Now, I do believe that he can be that quarterback, but as far as what has been shown on tape coming out of college, Lance showed already that he could do all the things that you're looking for him to do, especially in a Shanahan offense. So, yeah, I definitely would have taken Trey over Richardson if they were in the same class.
Jesse, could you answer Mike Crocker? He's a member.
He
had a comment. Go look at his last 6 games last year. Sam's been on bad teams. Could you share the statistics that you posted on Twitter about Darnold's last game with Mike Crocker?
Yeah, Sam was, I'll try to remember off the top of my head. I believe he was 5 of 15, 43 yards and 2 interceptions with no touchdowns in his last game.
That's his last game, Mike.
That's like his 55th start in the career. So, yeah, I don't know. T Breezy says this will be the biggest mistake of these Lynch and Shanahan careers, not giving Trey a fair opportunity. But I wonder what Jed has to say about all this. Well, we actually know what Jed has to say about all this. I'm going to go over it in just a second, actually. T Breezy also follows up, says Brock Purdy is a Cinderella story, small sample. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is the 49ers now have this history of making sweeping judgments on quarterbacks after such small sample sizes. And I don't
Yeah.
know if that's where you want to be as a franchise. Not me,
How is
anyways.
how is it, Jesse, that we have people willing to write off Trey Lance after 3 games and a quarter, 4 starts, not even 4 complete games? How is it we have people ready to write him off, but then they're excited about Sam Darnold? They think Sam Darnold is going to bring pressure to Trey Lance on the competition when he's had 5 awful seasons. Like, explain that to me, how it makes any kind of sense. I don't understand that.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it's unfair to say that Sam Darnold with this team, with Kyle Shanahan, would be the best quarterback we've seen him be. I think that's totally fair to say. I think you could say that about most of the quarterbacks in the league, but that doesn't mean he's a good quarterback. Those are 2 very different things. Will Sam Darnold play his best that he's ever played in his career if he plays on this team? Yes. Sure. Is Sam Darnold a good quarterback? No. Both can be true. Both can be true. In fact, we saw it with Jimmy. There's your sample size. Jimmy Garoppolo. Is he a good quarterback? No. Did he play well here? Yes. At times he played very well, including the last final games before he got injured. Probably the best football we had seen him play. Didn't have any turnovers for multiple games in a row for the first time in his career. But we've seen it. Like we knew what he was. We didn't need to see anything extra. So I don't know.
And Jess, can I speak on something that's unpopular that in regards to what you just said?
Yeah.
We have to consider that as well when we're looking at Brock Purdy. Like,
for sure,
people need to do that. And I think that's what's not going on. They see 8 wins in a row, and that's fantastic. But he had CMC, George Kittle, Kyle Shanahan dialing it up, Debo, Aiyuk. He was in a really good situation, okay? It doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback. I think he's way better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But we have to measure that. You can't just look at wins and losses. You have to look at what they're actually doing on the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard part, though, Ryan. I mean, I was on a Panther podcast about 10 days ago or so. They have the first pick overall. And he was asking my opinion on the top 4 quarterbacks. And so I was giving him my breakdown on what I'd seen, who I liked and why and all that. And he's like, why? Like, why is it that you can see these things, but like our own fan base can't see these things about whatever player? I think it was Anthony Richardson, actually. I was praising Anthony Richardson. And he's like, why can't my own fan base on my channel like notice what you notice about Richardson? Like, what's going on? I'm like, bud, you have to understand, like, the way this works is, first of all, getting your hands on college all 22, I mean, unless you've murdered somebody or you have a deep, dark secret on somebody, like, you've got no shot to get your hands on it. It's just not going to happen. College all 22 is hard to get. And so most people don't have access to it, right? So that's one. That's where my leg up is I actually do have access to it, which is great. But most people don't look at every play in and play out on all 22 and go back and watch it. They do exactly what the players do, Ryan.
Yeah.
They just know, hey, stats look good. We win games. That's all I care about. This is the funniest argument to me is when people are like, well, the players want him. So, I mean, you're an idiot. What do you know? If the players want him, they want him. Okay, well, the players wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw how that turned out. Well, that's one. Yeah. 2, these players are not in the quarterback room in quarterback meetings. They don't know what's being coached to these quarterbacks. They don't know where their flaws are at. All they know, defense goes on the field. They're like, oh, okay, well, we came off the field. We ended up winning the game, whatever. But in between series, they're looking at the tablet. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. They're getting coached up. Hey, we got to figure out what we're going to do when we go back out on the field. We got to da-da-da-da. They're not watching every snap. They're not breaking down the quarterback play. That's not their job. They got their own job. So everybody just looks at it surface level. That's 99% of fans are going to look at it that way. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I mean, that's just the way it is. Most people don't have time for all that. It's kind of where we come in because this is what we like to do. So we're going to go a level deeper, but people don't like to hear that because, I mean, I don't know. We won games. That's all I care about. And what do you know? So that's really that's the reality of the situation. Like that's why it is the way that it is. That's why the conversations are what they are. They don't care about the rest of that stuff.
Makes sense.
I want to bring up this quote, and I don't know if you saw the Jed York interview. Did you catch that at all?
Yeah, I watched most of
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So there was a quote that came out of this that really kind of trumped everything else that I had heard this whole last 24 hours, because it was the root of what the 49ers should be chasing. And I'm going to read it to you, and then I'll ask your opinion on it. He was asked about the quarterback position. This is Jed York. He says, that is the most important position in the league. You aren't winning a championship unless you have someone who is very good at the quarterback position, if not extremely great at the quarterback position. What are your thoughts when you hear that from Jed York?
That's a big jump, right? Very good or extremely great, like that.
Yeah.
Or just in between might work. I don't know, man. Interesting quote, man. Yeah, man. Jed York, man. He's hats off to him. He's doing his best. I think that's a no-brainer. At least he pointed out the fact of how important the quarterback position is. Sometimes it seems like 49ers don't prioritize it as highly as we want, but the truth is they probably do. They're just not good at getting that quarterback. They either misjudge or misread or mishandle the situation. But I think it's probably common sense throughout the NFL with all coaches and owners that you need a good quarterback and you want to get the best one that you can. I know a lot of times people think Kyle doesn't want a good quarterback because he wants to rely on the system. I find that hard to believe. Like I'm sure he wants the best quarterback that he can find. I just don't think so far he's been really good at finding that quarterback or developing that quarterback or handling it or protecting them. So we're using them the right way, right? So there's a lot of improvement there that needs to be done in order for them to locate who that is. We don't know if that guy's even on the roster. It could be Brock Purdy, could be Trey Lance. I don't think it's Sam Darnold, but it could be somebody who's not on the team at all. So
for sure,
that's still to be determined.
Yeah, there's a wide array of possibilities here. Like it is possible, small sliver, but it's possible that Sam Darnold is a G all of a sudden.
He's the GOAT.
Maybe he's that dude all of a sudden. Yeah. Maybe Trey Lance is really, really good. Maybe Brock Purdy's also really good. Or maybe they all suck, and then anything in between. Like these are all possibilities right now with this quarterback situation. And I actually do. I'm a little bit opposite on this quote. So I feel like that's a great quote. And I feel like he's right with his quote. You need really good quarterback play or extremely great quarterback play, as he put it, to win a Super Bowl. I agree with all of that. People have heard my stat. 57 Super Bowls have been played. 43 have been won by Hall of Fame quarterbacks. We agree, Jed, we agree that you need a really good quarterback likely to go win a Super Bowl. However, where I disagree is I don't think the 49ers have shown that in their actions. You can say it, but they haven't shown it. Now, yes, they have given a lot of money to Jimmy Garoppolo, who they thought was the guy. Yes, they went and traded everything under the kitchen, everything in the house, including the kitchen sink, for Trey Lance. But that doesn't mean that you are maniacal about finding that guy. If you trade everything for Trey Lance, but you never actually see it through, I mean, are you really living up to this quote, or is like just trading for him was enough? How do you feel about that?
Well, they see the eye candy in Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's instant gratification, right? And Brock Purdy got on the field and he played really good enough to win, right? So they see that makes them feel like we got what we need. That's the problem, right? They saw Brock Purdy, they saw him win, they saw him win 8 games in a row. He ran Kyle Shanahan's system, and it's like we want to win. Brock Purdy helps us win. They don't have the patience or the ability or the foresight to develop a guy like Trey Lance and see if you can have somebody that's great. So I think it's not that they don't want a good quarterback. It's that they don't recognize it or they don't know how to develop it. I think, if you ask them, do you want a great quarterback or do you want an average quarterback? He'll tell you, I want a great quarterback. I want the best quarterback I can find. I think that goes without saying, honestly, but I just don't think they've done a good job at it yet, right? Like they passed on Tom Brady for freaking Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Like,
right.
It's just bad assessing, right? I think if they can go back in time, they would have probably changed that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wish I knew what was kind of going on fully behind the scenes as far as how do they assess these guys? How do they pour everything into development for these guys? There's got to be something broken along the path because they know that they need a quarterback. Which, although I will say this, a little contradictory because Jed York says this, and I agree with him. But it seems like when you hear the team talk about the quarterback position, and I assume that they get this thought process from their head coach, it's like every position but the quarterback position matters. Like, whoever the quarterback is, like, just don't make mistakes. We're good. We got all the talent in the world. So I will say that's a little contradictory there. But for the most part, let's assume that everybody in the front office is with Jed York and they agree they need to get a quarterback. And I think trading for Trey Lance shows that they agree. But what in this process is broken?
Here, I'll tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you what it is. So it's not that they don't want a great quarterback. It's that they don't prioritize a great quarterback over other things. They prioritize the defensive line. They prioritize Kyle's system. All that comes first. Then it's great quarterback, whereas that's the wrong way to look at it. It should be great quarterback. And I thought of something today, and I posted it on Twitter that kind of maybe shed some light, at least from John Lynch's perspective. John Lynch won a Super Bowl as a player. I believe it was in 2003, 2005, something like that.
Two-ish, yeah.
2003, right?
Yeah.
How'd they win that Super Bowl? Great defense, and Brad Johnson is your quarterback, right? So he has that mentality as well. Kyle has the hard-headed, my system is what matters most. They came into the league and told everybody that their priority is to build up that defensive line. So their priorities that are messed up. It's not that they don't want a good quarterback or aren't trying to get a good quarterback, but they've prioritized defense over it. And they're not willing to sacrifice that defense in order to go get it. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. But I mean, again, that's saying one thing and doing something different. That's the same thing to me as when Shanahan said, when Mac retired, I'll never forget this quote. He said, the center position is the heartbeat of our offense. Really? Because I mean, up until this year, you've had a new center every year, and you went about as cheap as you could go at the center position. So that's a great thing to say, and I tend to agree with that outside of your quarterback, but you don't act like that. So it's just, I don't know. It's like they understand, but they're like, whatever. Like, I'm not even taking my own advice. Do as I say, not as I do. Like, that's the way that I take it with the 49ers sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, just look at what they prioritize. It's defensive line. It's Kyle's system. It's running backs. It's the running game.
Yeah.
It's yards after catch. It's anybody. We can put anyone in here and be fine. They want the best guy to run that system. That's how they look at it. We want the best guy that can run my system versus we want the best quarterback talent we can have, and we're going to design a system around that guy. And that's where the philosophy has ruined things for the 49ers as far as their chances. Yeah, they're going to win games. They're going to get to the playoffs. They might go to a Super Bowl, but they're not going to win one without that elite quarterback. And it's hard to find an elite quarterback that fits your system, right? You just go find the best quarterback you can, and you build your system around them. And that's part of the reason why you haven't seen Trey Lance get as much development, right? A lot of coaches would have took after spending 3 first-round draft picks and a third to get Trey Lance, they would have built everything around him. Okay, this is what he's good at. Look at what Andy Reid did, right? Andy Reid went and looked at what Mahomes was doing in college. Jim Harbaugh, he went and looked at what Colin Kaepernick was doing in Nevada, right? That's what they did and built around those guys. That's not what you're going to get from Kyle Shanahan. It's, can you do what I want you to do? And that's the issue.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly an issue. I mean, that's why you're going into year 7 and we still don't know who the quarterback is. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem. Yeah. Impulsive says, watching Sam Darnold highlights and realizing that he plays more like Trey Lance than Purdy, he throws deep and runs a read option. He might surprise us. No, I agree with that assessment. I talked about this on Grant's show when they signed him. I'm like, this is Shanahan again saying that he prefers this archetype of player, yet they're choosing to go with Brock Purdy, which is not the archetype that he prefers. It's a really interesting thing. let me put it to you like this. Sam Darnold, physically, very similar to Trey Lance. The difference is up here.
Yeah.
He's
turnover machine.
I mean, I don't know a nice way to put it. He's kind of a dummy. So it's like that's just what it is. He doesn't have the mental aptitude, I don't think, to be a great quarterback in this league. And I think that's where he's going to fall short. Trey Lance, I know, has the mental aptitude, but he needs the experience to put it all together still. So that's where I think the difference is.
It's kind of interesting that Brock Purdy, who is the inherent QB1 for the 49ers, he actually has the weakest arm on the team.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. Alan says, if no Super Bowl by the end of Kyle's contract, do you think Jed lets him walk? Ooh, this is a good question. What do you think?
I don't think Jed would. I think if he doesn't win one, there has to be some kind of accountability at some point. But I don't think Jed will do it. Like, as long as Kyle's competitive, making the playoffs every year, I think he gets an extension.
Yeah, I feel like Kyle's here as long as he wants to be here. I think the only thing that could happen potentially for Kyle to get fired is if they miss the playoffs in back-to-back years.
Yeah.
I think that's what it would take. Missing the playoffs in back-to-back years. And I think, assuming that John Lynch doesn't take a job announcing somewhere, that John Lynch will be the one that goes before Shanahan. So you'll know that Shanahan's on the hot seat when John Lynch gets fired, if he hasn't taken a job somewhere else by then anyway. So I think that's how you'll gauge when Shanahan's really, truly on the hot seat is by that decision-making personally.
And another thing that could put him on the hot seat is if he doesn't figure out this quarterback position, right? If Brock Purdy and Trey Lance don't work out, Sam Darnold doesn't work out, then we go into year 8, still don't know who our quarterback is. That's a problem, right? But he has 9 years. So at the end of 2025, Jed York will have to make that decision. I just hope that he holds off before making that decision. Wait until it plays out before you extend him. Don't extend him early unless he won a Super Bowl for you.
Yeah, if he wins a Super Bowl, put a statue out front. I don't care. Do whatever you want with him. Like, sure, exactly. Give him a lifetime contract. I'm all for it. But yeah, I agree. Don't. It seems like the decision making happens very fast around here. Oh, you made a Super Bowl? Here's a lifetime extension.
Right.
Oh, you won 5 games? Here's $150 million. Oh, you won 8 games? I don't care if you lost your elbow in the last game. You're the guy forever. Like, everything is based off of the smallest sample sizes, which is cool, I guess. But I mean, that's the mentality that's stopping us from ultimately getting over the top. You have to eventually be like, prove something. Actually go win the championship before I'm willing to just back up the Brinks truck and give you a lifetime deal.
It's actually
gotta win something.
It's actually very immature and compulsive. Like, to be honest with you, like the decisions, some of the decisions that they've made have been immature and compulsive.
Yeah, they they definitely have a little bit. Okay, let's talk about this Lance versus Darnold thing, because you said it. I mean, everything was going really, really well until it didn't at the very, very end of what Kyle Shanahan said.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you don't really care if they do a quote unquote competition. Walk me through your thinking on this one.
Well, there's 2 things to this. For one, I don't care because if Trey Lance can't beat Sam Darnold, I don't want him either. to be 100% frank.
For sure.
So there's that. The other thing is, what is Kyle Shanahan supposed to say? I don't believe Sam Darnold came here anticipating, okay, I have no chance to be QB1 or 2. I'm going to be QB3. Cool. That's what I want to do. I don't think he came here with those expectations. So they had to sell it to him, is what I'm saying. He could have gone somewhere else and been a QB2 somewhere, I'm sure, right? But he came here because it was sold to him that he's going to have an opportunity to compete. So Kyle Shanahan can't go on the record and be like, nah, Sam Darnold's QB3, or I don't believe in Sam Darnold, right? I feel like he has to say what he said in regards to Sam Darnold. And sure, we're going to get him out here and competing. I personally don't think that Kyle Shanahan wants to see Sam Darnold win that position. I think he wants to be right about Trey Lance and that investment that they made. So I think Sam Darnold would have to come out here and blow the doors off in order to beat out Trey Lance in that competition. I fully expect Trey Lance to be QB1 week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got that feeling a little bit too. Is like, okay, well, what did you tell Sam Darnold to get him to sign here? I'm sure that was a part of the conversation. One place that he gave himself an out a little bit was they said, I think somebody clarified. So are they going to be splitting reps? Are they truly competing? It's like, well, we'll see how each step of the offseason goes.
Right.
Well, so we'll see how mini camps go, and then we'll decide after that. And if it's still going good or we think they're even, then we'll continue to do this all the way through training camp, no problem. But it's how long can Sam keep up with Trey or vice versa? How long can Trey keep up with Sam before we just say, all right, it's this guy until Purdy's back type of situation. So he did leave himself an out for sure. Here's my only issue. I agree with everything you said. I think that if Trey can't beat out Sam Darnold, he's not who we want anyways. I'm totally fine with all of that. However, you've got a team that repeatedly says, well, we believe in Trey. He just needs a chance. He just needs more reps. He just needs to play. Now you're potentially going to take first team reps away from a kid who needs every single rep he can get. I mean, literally every single rep, he needs them all. And he's so early in his career that every rep could be the difference in taking that next level for him. So that's where I have the issue. Again, do as I say, not as I do. It's fine if you think, all right, Purdy, he earned the chance to start, and if he was healthy, it would be his job. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But when you say that you believe in Trey still, and all he needs is more time, and if he had played last year, we believe that he could have done all the same things that Purdy did. If that's really how you feel, then you've got to give him every single snap. Every snap is so important for him. So you're saying one thing, but then you're potentially willing to do the opposite. It's like, man, what is it? I don't get if you're coming or if you're going.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand your point there. One thing that I think is important that we say, when he was first asked the question, Kyle Shanahan says, what do you say? I haven't thought about that at all. Oh, wait, never mind. I did think about that.
I thought about all of it. Yeah,
I thought about all of that. Let me clarify. Let me go back. To me, that's part of the reason why I think it's more of a like I have to say this type of thing. And we don't know. Sam Darnold's going to come out and get 50% of the reps. He might get 30% of the reps week 1, 20 week 2. It could be very minimal. I think he has to say those things. And I think he had to say those things to Sam Darnold. Like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen to Brock Purdy. He may not be able to come back this year at all. He may not come back to week 8. We don't know. It's so much unknown. And so you're going to have to come in here and you can compete with Trey Lance and you might be able to win the QB1 spot. Whether he believes that's going to happen or not, I think that's what had to be said in order to get Sam Darnold here. And I just don't think he believes that. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I do, like I said, I do agree that he left himself an out because he was very specific. Well, I mean, we'll reevaluate every step of the way. As long as this is close, we'll continue to do it. So I don't know. I mean, we'll be at training camp. We'll see how much they actually split time after mini camp and all these other things. I'm curious to see what that split actually is and how long that split continues to go. Definitely something that is going to be talked about ad nauseum for sure.
Yes.
49ers daddy says, who drafted Trey and where is he hiding? Nonstop BS. Yeah, man. I'm with you. It's weird. The whole situation's a little weird. Okay. The thumbnail of this show. I mean, can I get a little credit? I think that thing looks incredible. I think I did a good job just on the Photoshop. It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So you got to give me some credit there. It is Trey Lance essentially addressing the media for the Tennessee Titans as if he's been traded there.
Yeah.
So let's just flat out, let's answer the question. Would it be a mistake if they trade Trey Lance?
My opinion right now is yes. To me, what the 49ers should do is make Trey Lance QB1 until Brock Purdy comes back. And if Trey Lance is struggling, then at that time you can assess, whether or not you bring Brock Purdy in. But to me, it would be an absolute mistake because out of Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, the quarterback that has the highest possible potential is Trey Lance to me, without question. So what you want to do is develop that and see if you can bring it out. So trading him, sending him somewhere else and watching them do that and going with Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy, who's coming off a UCL injury, would be Huge mistake. Yesterday, I made a video saying trade Trey Lance. One, because it was frustrating. And two, I think it's probably the right thing for him. If I'm Trey Lance, man, I probably would be wanting one. I think Trey Lance has better character than me, to be real with you. He's probably not asking for a trade. But if I'm Trey Lance, I'm like, get me out of here, man. Send me somewhere else. I'm probably more of a diva than Trey Lance is. But yeah, it'd be an absolute mistake to trade Trey Lance, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that if they do it, which again, probably is the best thing for Trey Lance. I mean, I believe that at this point. If you're not going to pour all your resources into him, then it's probably time to make that move. Because let's say that somehow Sam Darnold passes him in the depth chart, or Brock Purdy just starts and never gets injured and we never see Trey Lance again. That value's not going up. It's just not. The only way it goes up is if he comes in, he plays well, he shows some promise, and then you say, I know it looked good for the 4 games or whatever, but we're still rolling with Brock Purdy. Okay, we're going to trade him before the trade deadline. We're going to get whatever they think they can get for him. That's the only way that his value is actually going to go up. So if you're not going to pour all your resources into him, probably best that you do trade him for his sake. I think for the 49ers' sake, no, it wouldn't be smart, and it would be a mistake. And I think for a couple reasons. One, I think at worst, he's the second best quarterback on this team. Probably are going to need the second best quarterback at some point, because you go through quarterbacks like they're going out of style.
Yes.
And I would say the other thing is you still don't know what he is. So if you send him to a really good situation and he plays really well, that doesn't look good on you at all, especially if he's outplaying the guy that you chose over him. So I think it would be a mistake, especially now. So selfishly for the 49ers, I say do not trade Trey. But for Trey Lance's sake, I think Trey probably deserves better than what he's getting and should go somewhere else to play football and request that trade. I just don't think that's going to happen either. So no. Sounds like we agree. Don't trade Trey Lance if you want to do what's best for your football team, at least not yet.
Right. Yeah, no, here's what I think is going to happen, Jess. I think Brock Purdy's not going to be around for week 1. He's not going to be available for week 1, and who knows how long he's going to get. I think Trey Lance is going to beat out Sam Darnold for the QB1 spot. He's going to start week 1. He's going to play good enough to keep that position until Brock comes back. And if he's playing good enough, he's going to keep that position. Kyle Shanahan is not going to pull him out if he's playing well and the 49ers are winning. So Trey Lance, despite all of this stuff we're hearing, I think he has every opportunity to get what he's been wanting and what a lot of 49er fans have been wanting, and that's to be quarterback 1 for the 49ers. It would be awesome for me to see Trey Lance start week 1 and play a whole entire season. And then at the end of that season, we could make a definitive decision about what Trey Lance is. But that would be ideal for me. And I'm hoping that's what happens.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you. But do you get the feeling? I mean, I think I get the feeling more so off of what John Lynch said than what Shanahan said. But even to a degree, what Shanahan said, it seems almost as if the 49ers have this belief that Purdy is good enough to, as soon as he's done with rehab, just walk right back into the starting job. If it's before Trey Lance plays and does really well. Because I feel like to me, it feels like if Trey does get the job and he plays really well, they'll just roll with Trey. But if it's before week 1, even if it's 5-7 days before week 1, if Purdy's fully cleared, they could just hand him the job. I think that would be a mistake, because Purdy, regardless of where you stand on Purdy, he was still a rookie last year, and there's still a lot of areas that need to improve for him. And not having this offseason to improve those things because he's rehabbing, he's likely going to be the same player. Well, if you're the same player, maybe with slightly less arm strength, at least in the beginning, I do think he'll probably get all of his arm strength back, but it might take time. But let's say he's the same player with slightly less arm strength and no ramp-up time. I think that would be a disaster for Brock Purdy. I think the league would catch up really quickly to him. And I don't think it's not as if he's a vet who's had all these years under his belt. We know exactly what he is. his improvements might be micro improvements. He knows what it's like to be in the league. No, this is his first full year going into being a starting quarterback in the league and having a franchise on your shoulders, not being able to improve on the things that he needs to improve on. And there are those things out there. Man, I don't know. I think that's a really bad decision if that's what they're willing to do. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, I've been saying it for a couple months that it's almost ideal for that to happen for Trey Lance. And that's not what if you're Brock Purdy, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be rushed out there. But if you're Trey Lance, that could be an ideal situation because unfortunately the 49ers have a history of injury, or Brock Purdy could be rushed out there and struggle. And now Trey Lance gets to come in and be the savior, which is a much better place to be in than the guy that's replacing Brock Purdy, who everybody wants. So it could be advantageous to Trey Lance if that's what they end up doing. But if I'm Brock Purdy or I'm anyone in his camp, I'm taking my time and making sure I'm 100% healthy and ready to go before I step out on that field again. Because his expectations are going to be high. He's going to come out. People are going to expect him to be the same player he was last year. And who knows? There's a thing called a sophomore slump. It happens all the time. That could be what happens. It could be the film. It could be the injury. We don't know. But if I'm Brock Purdy, I'm taking my time. It sounds like he has a good camp, good people around him, his family, that are going to guide him in the right direction. So I think that works in Brock Purdy's favor. But, yeah, I don't think the 49ers should rush him out there. But it sounds like from John Lynch that's kind of what they're hoping to do. Kyle Shanahan gave me a different impression.
Yeah, slightly different impression. Slightly different impression. Yeah. But I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess we'll find out. We'll see what they eventually end up doing. But if Brock Purdy is the guy, and let's kind of get in that mindset for a minute and say, all right, Brock Purdy's going to be the franchise quarterback. He's your guy for the next 15 years. I certainly don't want to see them rush him back immediately. Now, if he's been there for weeks and has time and whatever, I understand that. But don't just, you're cleared. It's 5 days before the season or 7 days. You know what?
Yeah.
You're starting week 1. I think that would be a major, major mistake. And that is not setting up Brock Purdy for success, in my opinion.
Yeah, the kid's 23 years old. Hopefully he's going to have a long career, and they need to make sure they're doing whatever they can to focus on his health long term.
Jesse, if you were Trey Lance's dad, would you sock Kyle in the face? No, I wouldn't sock Kyle in the face. That's assault, sir. Definitely not assaulting anyone. I've got kids and a family that I've got to take care of. So, but don't press me. All right. So let's talk about Trey Lance, not just Trey Lance, but there's a lot of rumors from other teams. I don't think the 49ers are too interested in trading Brandon Aiyuk, but if the 49ers were to trade Brandon Aiyuk, let's talk about Trey, then we'll go to Aiyuk. If the 49ers were to entertain trading Trey, what would it take for you to feel good about that transaction?
Ooh. That's very hard because, again, Trey Lance to me's potential is through the roof. And it's just a question of whether he's going to reach that potential, and nobody knows. But his potential is a top, he's drafted third based on his potential. So his potential, that's where his value is at. So you would need a first round, like a high first round draft pick in order to justify trading away that potential. Now, he may not have never reached that potential, right? We may have seen the last of Trey Lance. He may never take another snap for the 49ers again. It may be Brock Purdy forever from now on out. And if that's the case, then I'd obviously be willing to take less. So the Trey Lance one for me is a lot harder than like an Aiyuk, because we know who Aiyuk is. With Trey Lance, it's all based on what I think his potential is and not what he's actually been able to do yet. So I'm taking a soft answer on this one. I don't know.
I'll tell you where I would feel comfortable trading Trey Lance is if I'm getting a known quarterback in return.
Yeah.
That I'm comfortable with, a quarterback that I like, and I think the 49ers would likely win a Super Bowl with. So
I'll trade him for Lamar. I'll trade him for Lamar.
I'm definitely in if it's trading for a guy like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's too many of those guys out there, I would say for sure, but there's definitely a few out there. So if I'm getting a known commodity back at quarterback that I think can take this team to the next level, that's the only way that I feel comfortable trading Trey. Or if I got all of my assets back that I traded in the first place. That's the
Right.
only two scenarios for me that I'm like, okay, let's do it. We still don't know what Trey is, but we're getting all of our assets back. I understand that. If you feel like Brock Purdy's the guy, go ahead and do that. Or we're just going to scrap this quarterback conundrum all the way through. We are going to just go trade for Lamar Jackson or somebody like Lamar Jackson. Then I'm in. Other than that, I wouldn't feel comfortable trading Trey Lance personally.
If the Panthers have the first pick, right? Panthers, right?
Yeah.
If the Panthers they won't, but if they gave you that pick for Trey Lance, I would absolutely take it. I like CJ Stroud, even though he's not a known commodity in the NFL. I really think CJ Stroud is going to be good. So that I would definitely take that. They're never going to get it, but I would take that. Or like you're saying, like a Lamar Jackson type player, I would take that as well.
Yeah, I would probably do that as well. I guess that's fair because I do have a higher evaluation for CJ Stroud coming out of college than what I had for Trey Lance. It's not a big gap, but it is slightly. And he hasn't played in the league yet. And I actually when I watch CJ Stroud, I'm like, oh man, the things he would do in this system would be unbelievable. Kyle Shanahan would love CJ Stroud, absolutely love CJ Stroud. He'd be head over heels for him. So
I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in this league, if not this year, year 2, year 3. That's how much I like CJ Stroud.
Yeah, for sure. I promise I didn't he's not gone forever. He's been on work trips the last couple of weeks. So he could have gone this week, but he would have had to have either gone yesterday or tomorrow. And just the timing of the way these interviews lined up, it made sense to do a show today. And then last week he was legit traveling all week, so it wasn't going to happen. So I imagine Sunil will be back next week. He's not in a basement somewhere.
You're
or something.
Stuck with So Real Ryan this week only.
Yeah. So Real Ryan instead of So Real Sunil. Yeah. Sorry. It's just the way it is around here. I think you guys are good though. You guys seem excited when Ryan's come on, so I think you're fine. All right, let's talk about Aiyuk. What would it take for you to feel comfortable in trading Brandon Aiyuk? And the reason that this question is being brought up is because a lot of rumors have swirled that a lot of the Patriots, the Giants, other teams are interested in Aiyuk. They're picking up the phone. They're calling the 49ers potentially. The 49ers seem inclined to keep him, which I like that. But other teams are interested. So if you're running the 49ers, somebody calls and says, hey, I'm willing to offer X for Brandon Aiyuk. What is going to get you to say yes to that offer?
It's going to take a lot, man. I believe that the whole goal of a franchise is to get players like Brandon Aiyuk, not to trade them. Right. So the only way I'm getting rid of Brandon Aiyuk is if I can upgrade at his position. So that means I'm going to need a top 10 draft pick or something like that. I'm going to need a top 10 wide receiver that's cheaper. You're going to have to give me a really, really reason to trade Brandon Aiyuk because I think he's everything you want in a player. Maybe as a wide receiver, he could be faster or something like that. But outside of that, man, he's a hell of a blocker. He's tough as hell. He's not scared of anybody. He's a great route runner. He has good hands. He's the best receiver on the team. So if you get rid of Brandon Aiyuk, you have to replace him because he's the only real true one wide receiver on the team, in my opinion. I like Debo, man. He's a weapon for sure. One of the best weapons in the NFL. Don't get me wrong, but Brandon Aiyuk is the best true wide receiver on this team. And if I'm getting rid of him, I have to be able to replace him at a cheaper price.
So top 10 pick?
Top 10. Yeah.
Top 10? Yeah. Rome the upsetter agrees. Top 10 pick. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's totally fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. I'd actually like to keep playing this game. If we can just go down every player on the roster, which I know it pisses people off, but I mean, Kyle and Lynch both said that, they're willing to trade anybody if they get the right offer, including themselves. So, I'm curious to see what the tipping point is for all these players.
What would you trade Kyle for, Jesse?
What would I trade Kyle for?
Yeah.
2 first-round picks.
3 firsts?
2 firsts.
2 firsts. Okay.
You give me 2 firsts, I'll trade Kyle. You give me 2 firsts.
Yeah.
Or you give me a decent coach in a first. I could deal with that too. So I don't know if I got I don't know, a top 8 to 12 type coach, somebody that's kind of close to his level, but you also gave me a first, I'd feel comfortable doing that. What about you? What would you trade Kyle for?
That's tough, man. I like Kyle, but there's something about Kyle, man. I just feel like I really feel like he's going to go somewhere else that has a top-notch quarterback at some point and win a Super Bowl, but I don't ever know if he's going to do it here. But I think he's a good coach, a really good coach, and he's great at some things. It's tough for me. I don't really know if I would trade him, but if I did, I would definitely need at least 2 first-round picks, at least at minimum. Yeah, maybe 3.
What would you trade John Lynch for?
A Snickers. I'm over that guy, man. Like, I'm cool. Yeah.
I was going to say Adam Peters. Like, if just Adam Peters moves into the role, then I'm trading. Like, John Lynch can go. I'm the same way, man. Like, I really like Adam Peters. I know that Adam Peters does a lot for this team as far as evaluation goes. I really feel like Lynch is just kind of a talking head at this point.
Yeah.
And he's getting worse at that. He's regressing as being a talking head. You're supposed to be the PR guy. You're the one that's supposed to not put your foot in your mouth. That's supposed to be Kyle Shanahan. But you're the one, every time you come out and speak now, it's like, dude, did you really just say that? You're the PR guy? If that's all your job essentially is to be the face, and you keep messing that up, at some point, probably time to move on. So I'm willing to move on from Lynch too. Golly.
Yeah.
RS says, what's the bigger overreaction from Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and Niner fans? Jimmy G's 5-game winning streak with a terrible 2017 team, or Brock Purdy's 8-game winning streak on a 2022 loaded team? Ooh, this is a good one. I'll answer this one first.
Go ahead.
I think Jimmy G's 5 games. And the only reason is because they paid him buku bucks right after. Brock Purdy's still cheap. He's on a really inexpensive contract. They actually can't pay him or redo anything until he's put 3 full seasons in. So maybe that's the only reason that they're not willing to just back up the Brinks truck, because I have a feeling that they probably would pay him through the wazoo if they had the opportunity to, but because of technicalities, they can't. So I'm going to go with the Jimmy G 5-game win streak. What about you?
It's got to be Jimmy G, man. 135 million, yeah, no question. They like Jesse said though, if they had to pay him right now, they'd probably break 135 million for Brock, no problem, even with the UCL injury, which would be stupid. But the reason why Jimmy's a bigger overreaction is because Brock's better. Plain and simple. You know, paying 135 million for Jimmy Garoppolo, who is never, in my opinion, a great quarterback. That's the obvious answer for me.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. Way to force him to work with Trey Lance. Like, are you sure? Okay, well, guess what? He's now your best option. Just that's what's gonna happen. That'd be actually really funny.
Yeah.
Talk about the irony there. Lil Cocky says, crazy to me that people can acknowledge that Trey might not be good, but can't believe that the Niners would know by now. These are some of the best football minds in the world. They know. Sorry. Hold on.
I got to digest this one.
Okay, so this is the way I understand it. He's basically saying that these are the best football minds in the world, and so they can't get things wrong, is the way that I understand this super chat. That's the way that, like, basically there's no way that you and I, who are just YouTube guys, could possibly know more than they would know.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Just like they've nailed the quarterback position the last 6 years. You're right.
Little Cock, listen, I appreciate the super chat, and I'm just giving you a hard time. The tough thing, and I always say this about super chats, it's really, really hard to put up a super chat, especially when it's a difference of opinion. It takes guts to do that, 1. But 2, you have a limited character space. So you don't actually get to give any nuance on what it is that you're trying to say. So I've just got to take you at face value here. And that's what I'm answering to. So hopefully you don't take it any type of way, but
I don't mean to make it negative, little cocky.
No. Because I'm going to sound negative as well. So that's why I'm setting him up for this, because I'm going to sound the same.
Yeah.
Just because you are in a position where you have more knowledge and more nuances doesn't mean that you can't be wrong.
Correct.
There's reasons that coaches and GMs get fired all the time. It's because they get it wrong on a regular basis. So if they were always right, two things would be true. One, Jimmy G would have panned out because, I mean, they paid him, so they clearly had confidence in him. Actually, I'm going to go a few things. Two, they would have been right about keeping Jimmy G over Tom Brady. And remember when a lot of the league thought that Tom Brady was cooked? How'd that turn out? That was a lot of people that thought the same thing based off of what they had seen, but they weren't right about that. And three, then they certainly would have gotten the Trey Lance thing right. So,
I mean, dude,
they went all in for Trey Lance, and now they're deciding not to go with Trey Lance. So which one of them is right? Because it's the same people, same positions of power. Were they right when they went all in and traded everything for Trey Lance, or are they right now when they're choosing somebody else over Trey Lance? So that's a little bit contradictory there.
Who's got a better? Well, let's put it this way: Bill Belichick thought he could win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. Got rid of him. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl without him. That was a mistake on Bill Belichick, who's one of the greatest football minds that there is. And I wouldn't have traded Tom Brady. I would have let Tom Brady play for me as long as he wanted.
Yeah, they can't draft a receiver to save their lives in New England. They haven't figured that out. Like these, yes, they have forgotten more football than we'll probably ever know.
True.
But I think both things can be true. I think they can be the smartest guys in the room, but that doesn't mean that you're always right. And so when I said a few years ago, when Tom Brady was leaving Tennessee, or excuse me, leaving the Patriots after that loss to Tennessee, and I'm like, I don't know, it looks like the same Tom Brady to me. His receivers can't get separation. And 90% of the league said, oh, well, I mean, he's shot, he's 40, he's whatever. I mean, I can be right. Even though I'm not as smart as these guys, doesn't mean that I don't know or I can't be right in a scenario where they're wrong. So that's just the way that it works. I mean, you have so many opinions and you're forced to make so many decisions, you're going to be wrong sometimes. Just like when Ryan and I come on here, dude, there's things that we're wrong about all the time. But when I have to put my opinion for everybody to see and can go pull receipts, of course I'm going to be wrong. If you're in the chat throwing out a take every once in a while, or, you know, just kind of saying things to yourself or to your friends in a small circle, like that's not going to be put on Front Street as much. Right. So like that's where the difference comes in. We're all wrong. I'm wrong. You're wrong. They're wrong. But when you are making millions of dollars to be right and you're wrong, you're going to be held accountable. When you have a show where people are paying you in time to watch and there are receipts, you're going to be held accountable when you're wrong. Okay. A little bit more than maybe, you know, the average person would be. So that's just the way it is, man. That's life. It is. It's the way that it is. Everybody's wrong. Not everybody's right. So
I've been wrong at least once in my life.
Yeah, I'll admit to being wrong maybe a half a time. I don't know. Dustin the Gal says, I'm all in over this Trey Lance situation. Niners make decisions out of fear. We always are the bridesmaid. I mean, they've been the bridesmaid a lot, and that's not just this era. This was the John Lynch era as well. I mean, it seems like going 5-0 in the Super Bowl, the 49ers have been the second best team, 6 seasons in the last 12 years? That's what it feels like. It sure does.
Got another quarterback position in the offensive line if they want to get married. Yeah,
I agree. They talk like they want commitment, but they don't. But then they're still being fuckboys when it's time to settle down.
Right.
Like, that's how I feel about the 49ers.
Right.
Oh, okay, word, you're 30 and you want to commit? Yeah. Well, then quit going out every Saturday night and trying to bang every girl in town, bro. Yeah. Like, quit being an F-boy. Right. Like, do you want to get married or do you not? Don't talk about how much you love the quarterback position and talk about how much the offensive line means to you. And then the first time that you might actually have the girl that could be your lifetime wife, you're cheating on her with her best friend. Like, what's up, dude? Do you want to get married or not? I'm confused.
Jesse just called Kyle Shanahan a fuckboy. Make sure you guys tweet that out.
That's how I feel, man.
Yeah, it's great.
Lil Cocky says Niners and players and everyone that see Trey obviously don't think that much about Trey. He also hasn't looked impressive at all ever. It was a terrible pick. Niners know what time to move on. Okay. Cool. So the very, very beginning thing, we were talking about like quarterback evaluation. And I don't think you were here for it, so I'll reiterate it because you paid for it. I appreciate it, Lil Cocky. For me, when players, by the way, these same players really wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. So are we going to trust their evaluation? Because they really wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. And these players are players who, when film sessions happen, they're with their position groups. When they're off the field, they're looking at tablets. They're being coached. They aren't breaking down the quarterback position. Now, if you are asking a player about an opposing player that they play against, like physically or on the field, in a game between the lines, and they have an opinion about that player, I would actually take that opinion very seriously. But when you're talking about a position on your team that you don't play, and quite frankly, you don't really watch on a regular basis because you're being coached up and you're not in the quarterback room, I can't trust your evaluation on that. The players aren't paid to be quarterback evaluators. The players are paid to be players. And those same players rocked with Jimmy G about as tough as they could. Was that the right decision? So,
little cocky, no disrespect, but have you ever played team sports? Because if you have, you understand that there's political dynamics involved with that. Your friends want their friends to play with them. They want them to do well. I mean, it sometimes boils down to just that. I've been a coach, and I've asked my players, because I ask their opinions. I'll ask the captains, like, who should we play? Who's the best player? Give me your best 5 players. Who should start? And sometimes the people they tell me, I know they're just telling me that because that's their friend, because they're clearly not one of the best players.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Gammon Bomber states Jesse has a super ego response. I don't really care what people that don't know me on a personal basis say. That's just being honest.
Yeah.
I appreciate that he watches, but that dude doesn't know me at all, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
Okay, so we established we would trade Kyle Shanahan for a lot, multiple first round picks probably. Trey Lance either for the first pick in the draft, all the picks that they actually traded to get him, or a well-known quarterback, and then Brandon Aiyuk, it would take a top 10 pick. We agree?
Yeah.
All right. Ryan, hey, this was a hell of a show, man. Went an hour and 17 minutes. Thank you again for coming on late notice. There's a link in the description. That is a link to Ryan's channel. Definitely go show him some love. He just gave us an hour of his time. Would love to see you guys all go subscribe to Ryan's channel. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Normally I would do the call-in show after 49ers After Dark with Grant, but I'm going to have Larry Krueger on. And I know that Larry Krueger and I have a big difference of opinion in a lot of ways. I've been on his show multiple times. Finally, I'm going to oblige and have him back on. I'm making good on all these things, Ryan. You had me on multiple times.
Yeah.
Larry had me on multiple times. It's my turn to return the favor. So, Ryan, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you. We'll talk soon. Guys in the chat, appreciate you. Peace.